Hello and welcome to the Total Soccer Show. My name is Daryl Grove and I'm joined by a man who has a partial medical degree specialising in shoulder issues. His name is Taylor Rockwell. Hello.
If by that you mean texted our friend who's a doctor to get some answers, then yes, and hello.
Hello. So we are here to review the 2018 Champions League final. Spoiler alert, it finished 3-1 to Real Madrid. Before we get into the various issues, obviously Mohamed Salah's shoulder is a thing we will be talking about. I want to just look back and say that had everything.
Yep.
That had some drama. It had amazing goals. It had highs and lows and injuries. That was a real final in the way that you hope it's going to be, right? Not if you're a Liverpool fan, obviously.
There it is, yeah.
But in a neutral way that we watch it, just to see the drama and excitement of a final instead of like a boring 0-0 grind.
Yeah. And I mean, and in that regard, it lived up to the billing because I think there was an expectation of its two very potent attacks, two occasionally suspect defenses. On the evening, it was more so one suspect goalkeeper. But yeah, I mean, it lived up to the billing. There were goals. It was exciting. There were lots of twists and turns along the way, even if it went from Madrid up to tied to Madrid up and then Madrid up again. Still more like all over the place than I thought it would be.
And obviously normally we do some deep analysis of games, but this was a game where really we had to say, let's just enjoy this ride and watch it as soccer fans, and then afterwards we'll go back and look at the various parts and pick it apart, which is exactly what we've done.
It is.
This game, both tactically and emotionally, turns on Mohamed Salah's shoulder injury after about, 26 minutes or so.
Yeah.
Shall we talk about Sergio Ramos's role in it? Because it is Ramos who takes Salah to the floor and basically is the root cause of this whole thing. And if we didn't know any better, I might even say that this was the plan to eliminate Mohamed Salah.
I mean, they were definitely struggling a little bit in those first 20 minutes. There have been many people who have said this was intentional, who said that this was a deliberate act by Sergio Ramos. Where do you come down, Daryl? Do you think it was deliberate? Do you think it was intentional? Or do you think it was accidental? I think those are three different things.
They are. Well, here's what I see. I think he intended to grab Mohamed Salah by the arm. He did not intend to drag Mohamed Salah to the floor and try to separate / dislocate / injure Mohamed Salah's shoulder, right? And I would also say the thing that Ramos does do, which is to wrap his arm around Mohamed Salah's arm, is a pretty regular part of the dark arts of defending. But it's never, ever done with intent to harm or intent to cause injury. It's just done with intent to not let this guy get away from me.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
And pretty much what happens, what I've said, and I've watched this many, many times, is Ramos is holding on to Salah, got his arm, and he also kind of steps across a little bit as a way to get the ball. Then there's a slight tangle of legs and Ramos goes to the ground, and that's when he drags Salah with him. So no intent to injure. It's just sort of cynical defending gone wrong.
I would agree with that. And I would say, I mean, he definitely comes down hard on the shoulder, and I think it is, I feel like some people have phrased it, it's especially halftime commentators, phrased it as it was physical defending, that's what he's known for, it's a physical challenge. I think he probably knows I am pulling him down with me and I'm not going to let him get away. I don't think he means necessarily to separate his shoulder or dislocate his shoulder, whatever it ends up being.
Right. Because there's a really unfortunate element where that's where Salah lands and then it kind of rolls, and that's when we assume it sort of stretches the ligaments, right? Yeah.
Because I do think there are other times if you're just running neck and neck with a person and you do that, you fall down, they fall with you or they fall to the side and it's fine. I think it's just that maybe the angle of approach that Mohamed Salah had, it meant he kind of fell over on top of Ramos, and thus it was a really awkward position in which he fell.
Okay, so before we discuss the impact on this game, should we discuss what we know about the severity of the injury and the thing everyone's asking, does Mohamed Salah go to the World Cup or not?
And the answer to that is maybe, is what I'm going to say. Because you're definitely getting reports from the BBC and the like saying that he will be out for the World Cup. I think that is slightly premature because he is currently at the hospital getting x-rays. The initial report came from the Egyptian doctor, the doctor for the Egyptian FA, saying that he had spoken to Liverpool, that it was a suspected shoulder separation, but that it should only be 2 to 3 weeks. That has since been disproven, or the reporting has changed to indicate that it's more than just a dislocated shoulder, which is already saying something, but it's more so that like it's much more severe, I guess, than they initially thought.
So what I read was that a shoulder separation, the big problem is, the shoulder...
You're right, sorry. It wasn't initially reported that it was a shoulder separation. It was that it was like an AC sprain. Not an ACL sprain, but an AC sprain.
Yeah, is that the same thing?
No, I think a shoulder separation is more severe because it's an actual like dislocation of the shoulder, which can imply that more than just like one tendon was strained.
Well, here's how I understand it, is that it's ligaments that hold your shoulder blade in your collarbone. And it just depends on the severity of the damage to the ligaments.
Exactly.
Right? It could be just 2 weeks of rest and they slowly heal. Could be that they're torn and you need to have them surgically repaired, in which case it's weeks and weeks and weeks, so they definitely miss the World Cup. Or it could be somewhere in between. So the recovery time all depends on how bad the damage is to the ligaments, and we just don't know the answer to that yet.
Yes, and I think that this is a case where if you're the newspaper, you kind of have to hedge on the side of he's going to miss out because it's a more grabbing headline. You're going to get more clicks than...
That's everything that's wrong with newspapers.
Well, but what I mean to say is, like, in this situation, while it sucks, because that is sort of the nature of the business, I guess, it's also the case that you can't say, like, might miss the World Cup or, like I guess you could do, like, is World Cup doubt, question mark.
That's
but
what they'll do, yeah.
It's more so, like, if you're going off of, I think it was, like, the NHS recommended treatment or whatever it was, said 6 to 8 weeks, and that's where I think that initial report came from, that he'll miss the World Cup.
Okay.
But you just kind of can't tell, and it will be something that I'm guessing more than a few people will be closely monitoring.
Yeah. Obviously Egyptian fans, but all World Cup fans will be interested to see whether Salah plays or not. So we don't know that, but we do know that he couldn't play on in this game because he tried, right? I'll say this, Liverpool tried everything and I think did the right thing in terms of got him back out on the field, let him have, a minute or so after he came back on, and then it was obvious he was in too much pain to continue. Then they immediately said, okay, you're done, come on out. Yeah, they didn't try and force him to play through.
He comes back on, he plays a little bit, but even when he is, I think he's briefly on the ball, he's holding his shoulder, he kind of grabs it as soon as he's passed. Liverpool get a corner, and you can see him trying to adjust it as the corner comes in, and then we cut to some replays, we cut back, he's on the ground, gets subbed out like 2 minutes later. And so...
kind of heartbreaking as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You understand why Liverpool made all the decisions they made, and you can understand why he wouldn't be able to go on, but it's still heartbreaking, and I think it's especially heartbreaking for Liverpool, both the club and their fans, because this really was the turning point, in my opinion.
I agree. And it's not just because of Mohamed Salah's attacking threat. Liverpool's plan was sort of working for the first 26 minutes. And you may not believe us because you've watched the entire game, but we did that thing where we enjoyed it. We went back, watched the first 20-something minutes. Liverpool's plan was really, really working. So maybe we should dig into what that was and why it was working, and maybe why it changes when Mohamed Salah comes off.
Well, so going back to our preview, we had a conversation about, like, there was some speculation out there that maybe Madrid should not start Casemiro because he was... Even though he's a world-class midfielder, he was kind of perceived as the weakest passer and weakest in possession in that Madrid midfield.
Which is harsh on him because then he's being compared to Luka Modric and Toni Kroos. It's like us being the dumbest person in the room because we're with sort of two like Nobel Prize-winning physicists.
Yeah, I'm kind of the dumbest person in the room. I'm used to it. But I think it was also, this idea was that he is fine on the ball. He completes short passes. He completes lots of passes. But I think the bigger thing was that he completes lots of short passes and quick and simple touches. And if you're putting him into a position where he has time and space on the ball, but he doesn't have many options because you've blocked them all off, he can kind of maybe take a little bit too long on the ball and be caught in possession, be robbed, and then you're away if you're Liverpool. And that's basically what happened for the first 20 minutes. Inside the first
20 seconds.
Yeah, inside the first 13 minutes, 3 different times, he gets the ball, has it poked off of him, and it leads to a Liverpool counterattack. I think twice it leads to a Liverpool corner.
So if you want real evidence of this, go back and watch the kickoff. Because what Liverpool do is they take kickoff, I believe. I think they play it back to a defender, Van Dijk maybe. Van Dijk bangs it long all over and bangs it long down the wing. Rafael Varane has a beautiful touch, brings it out of the air, beautiful, passes it to Modric. They're under pressure immediately. Liverpool are doing the counter press. It gets to Casemiro, and then I believe Casemiro either gets tackled or mishits a pass. And then Liverpool are away. And it ends with a Mohamed Salah passing to Mane in the area, and Varane has to save Real Madrid. So Liverpool's plan is definitely go direct, win the second ball. That's our gegenpress. We'll make the gegenpress happen. And we'll get it off Casemiro for the most part.
And then I think with that, the idea was let's bypass the midfield because I think they didn't want to be in a position where they get caught in possession. Suddenly, Real Madrid are able to counterattack from like 40 yards away from Liverpool's goal. It seemed like the idea was hoof the ball long, win the second ball, or challenge for the second ball, then challenge once they've gotten possession, regain possession 30 yards from Real Madrid's goal, and then attack. And they were doing that very consistently and causing lots of problems.
There were a lot of Varane Rafael Varane last second blocks and clearances and interceptions. He really was Real Madrid's hero for the first half an hour or so. Okay, so we've made the case that Liverpool were on it. Their plan was working. Klopp's plan was working for the first 20-something minutes. Why does it all change when Mohamed Salah goes off?
Because we've even just talked about the fact that they were just hoofing it long and then trying to put Casemiro under pressure. But Salah specifically did a lot of dropping in, linking up play, one simple touch out wide, then he turns and he's away. And so he was doing a good job of stretching the field, staying high to challenge for some of those aerial balls, but also dropping in to link up play when they did try to pass out of the back. And I think really he was instrumental in all of those approaches. So when he's gone, Adam Lallana comes on. And I don't know if it was intentional or if it was Adam Lallana not having much experience because he has not played very much this season. It felt more like the latter, but it was him sitting back 10 to 15 yards deeper than either Firmino or Sadio Mane, who switched to the right-hand side once Salah came off. And it just seemed like, I think you had the phrasing for what Lallana was doing. Do you remember it?
Yes, that Firmino and Salah and Mane, when they're doing any sort of pressing when Real Madrid have the ball, it's very proactive and instinctive, whereas Lallana looked very reactive and sort of non-instinctive. He just sort of was reacting and kept looking around and wondering what he's supposed to be doing. And not 100% doing it wrong, just not doing it sort of instinctually and proactively in the way that Mohamed Salah was doing it before. And once one of the front three is not doing it, the whole thing is not working. You do not see Liverpool successfully pressuring Real Madrid from the second Adam Lallana comes on. I feel terrible saying it because I know it's a very tough thing to come off the bench in the 28th minute and try and do that and replicate what Mohamed Salah does or what Sadio Mane does. But he just wasn't up to the task. And I think if Klopp could go back and have that substitution again, I think he might put in a different player.
Yeah, I agree with you because, I do not think that he was told, sit a little bit deeper, mark off a little bit, stand off. And so you kept seeing him when the player would receive the ball out wide. If it was Carvajal for the brief time, he was on until he himself came off. But whenever it would go onto that Madrid right-hand side of the field, you would see Lallana almost have that oh, right. And then he would run over 5 yards. And occasionally he would overcommit, which is the ultimate thing you're not supposed to do in a gegenpress is overcommit, because if you've run hard and then gotten beat, now somebody else has to come over and cover for you and it pulls everybody out of position. That happened several times, and I think once that happened several times, rather than be proactive and think, okay, I got to stop doing that, I got to move to the ball faster, I think he backed off a little bit, and I think he got even more cautious, and that's why from the time Salah goes off,
right? Backing off is not the plan.
No, not at all. And so that's why that's when you start to see Madrid, number one, establish possession very much in Liverpool's half, but also around their 18. And the key point of that is number two, then even when Liverpool would get the ball, they would look long to Roberto Firmino, who was 30 yards from his own goal or 40 yards from his own goal, so that doesn't work.
Lallana was guilty of that as well, right? A lot of the time, if you picture Salah, he plays a short ball into someone and that ping, 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 ping happens as Liverpool break. I saw Lallana look up and try and lift it over the defence for Mane or Firmino to chase, and it's just not as successful, and it breaks down a lot faster, and then Real Madrid have the ball and they can build and come back at you the other way.
But another reason why it's not as successful is because if you go back to those opening 20-25 minutes, it's Liverpool winning the ball, doing that aggressive pressure, again, 30 yards from Madrid's goal. When they're winning it 30 yards from their own goal, you've got, I don't know if you know this, Daryl, you've got more distance to cover.
I know how
then there were times...
I once owned a tape measure.
But the one that really stood out to me was Sadio Mane, I think, drops in, links up with Wijnaldum. Trent Alexander-Arnold is able to play out of pressure, and it's a good sequence. But then at a certain point, Wijnaldum tries to play Mane over the top, and it's just, you're too far from goal. When you play it, a center back just sweeps across, covers it, drops it back to Keylor Navas, and then that's done. And
it's also, not to keep rubbing salt in the Adam Lallana wound, but there's essentially just, he's not as fast as Mohamed Salah. So you don't have the front three of pure pace that you did have before. You have two of pace plus Adam Lallana, right? And who, by the way, is more of a central midfielder than he is a wide player, in my opinion. If it was me, if I was Jurgen Klopp,
I know who you would. I know what you're going to say.
I would have put in Dom Solanke instead, and I think it's understandable why he didn't, right? Far less experienced player, Champions League final, over an hour to go. It feels like a risk. Whereas you got Adam Lallana, played many, many games, England international, has proven himself to be adept in the gegenpress system. But in hindsight, it's the wrong choice.
Especially because there was one very clear moment of like, ooh, that is not what would have happened before. Like he gets the ball, Lallana. Liverpool are breaking. They're right around midfield. And it is that sort of like Sadio Mane like curves, like makes this kind of streaking curved run out to the right. You have Roberto Firmino making that run to the left, and they're both like on their horse. And Adam Lallana tries to play the ball in behind and just plays it straight to a Madrid defender. And you have to believe that if that's Salah in there, again, I'm sorry, Liverpool fans. I'm guessing you've switched off by now. But if you haven't, it was the moment of like, see, that is where he is not Salah. That is where he's not Sadio Mane. I feel like they know how to play that pass because they've done it so often this season, and he just hasn't for a variety of reasons, and I think that's where it becomes problematic for Liverpool.
So I think worse for Liverpool fans, we've got to talk about the first goal.
Sure.
The second half, 51st minute, I think, Karim Benzema is credited with the goal. Mm-hmm. But in many ways, this is going to go down in memory as a Karius own goal.
I mean, it should.
At least emotionally, right?
Yeah.
So if you haven't seen it, I'm sure you have. This is Karius receives the ball after a pass over the top, goes for a quick throw out to, I believe, Dejan Lovren, and Karim Benzema sort of just lifts his foot in the way and basically volleys it past Karius, straight back past him. Karius then appeals.
Yes.
Right? Mm-hmm. Does he have grounds for appeal?
No.
Okay. Flat no.
Yeah.
Wow. All right.
I mean, that's the thing. I'm going to be like the wet blanket, I feel like, in this show, because everything that seems to be a talking point coming out of this one, did Sergio Ramos mean to hurt Mohamed Salah? I don't think so. Like, was this a foul by Karim Benzema? Should have been brought back? No, I don't think so.
Okay, well, let's get into this. Here's the laws of the game. It's an indirect free kick if a player prevents the goalkeeper from releasing the ball from the hands, or kicks or attempts to kick the ball when the goalkeeper is in the process of releasing it. I think I wrote that down with one too many kicks in it, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So if he prevents the goalkeeper from releasing the ball, which he didn't, because Karius was able to release the ball.
Yep.
I'm sure he wishes that he didn't. But or the second part may be more interesting. Kicks or attempts to kick the ball when the goalkeeper is in the process of releasing it.
Yeah.
If I was Karius' lawyer and this was in a court of law, that's the defense I'd be going with, is the second part.
Yes. I mean, I think you're absolutely right. That's what they would be going with. And here is where I am interpreting it myself. So big old grain of salt. But I think what that relates to is when you see the goalkeeper throw it up to punt the ball, and we have seen those where he tosses it up in the air to basically volley it, is what you're doing when you punt the ball. And we've seen players, as it goes up, they just try to kick it out of his hand. And I think Berbatov tried to do that once, and that is a foul.
George Best did that to England once.
Okay.
For Northern Ireland, and it got ruled.
Yeah, because you are interrupting the distribution, essentially. Whereas in this case, maybe there's an argument to be made that Benzema is raising his leg before the ball actually leaves Karius' hand.
He definitely is, because we've gone back and watched it slowly.
But he's certainly not taking the ball illegally out of Karius' hand. I think that even this is where maybe people will object, but I would say even if it could be deemed as Benzema maybe inhibiting the distribution, it's still Karius should know better. That's what it comes down to. Is don't put yourself in a position or your team in a position where the referee has to make that decision.
Did you see Karius with his hands indicating the distance that he thinks Benzema was from the ball? I was confused by that because I'm not sure that has anything to do with. There's no actual measurement of how close you're allowed to be.
I'm inclined to say that in that moment, it's just him trying to not be at fault. And I think anytime it's the same thing as when we're playing amateur soccer and I'm offside. I don't think I was, but maybe I was, and I know I shouldn't have been. Yeah. I'll scream at you'll scream at the ref. I'm not saying I do this, but I'm saying you'll yell at the ref no, it wasn't me. What are you talking about? Or
you do, and you definitely were offside.
Yeah, right. But or just anytime a player makes a mistake, they never want to be at fault. So it's always, we talked about it with the women's Champions League final. Where was it?
Yes,
Pop. Where she was saying I got ball. You're always going to vehemently protest. And I think the stronger it is,
she got ankle.
You're either very innocent or very guilty. And in this situation, I would say they were both guilty.
So here's another angle to this. Someone called Prometheus on Twitter had pointed out, I hadn't seen this until they pointed it out, 2 minutes before this Karius error, Karius gets kind of an elbow in the face from Sergio Ramos. There's a ball into the box, and I think, I can't remember where the ball ends up, but Ramos sort of lunges forward. We think he's pushed
It goes
by
out for a
Van
goal
Dijk.
kick.
Goes out for a goal kick and connects with Karius' face. And I wonder if he's a little bit maybe dazed or a little bit still recovering from getting a whack in the face. Because he goes down, right? Karius goes down and in his own goal and is down for at least a minute or so. And the next time you see him on camera...
I'm not sure that's true. I'm not sure he's down for a minute or two because you get the replays and we come back and there's no cut to him being down. There's no cut to him getting treatment. There's no replay of the incident.
That's
so
true.
I think maybe he's down, yells for a second, and then hops back up.
We don't know though, right? Because the next time I see him, he's catching that ball just before releasing it.
Yeah.
He's doing the catch and release that he should not have
Yeah.
done.
And so, I mean, maybe that's a thing that happens. I don't know. But I can say that, again, I watched this one because I saw the headline of like Ramos elbows Karius, and I was like, let's see what happens here. And it does to me look like Virgil van Dijk, not like maliciously, but I think it's, again, it's defending. It's just aggressive. It's an aggressive approach. He wants to make sure he knows where Ramos is. I think there is a push, and I think Ramos doesn't know Karius is there. It's not like he sees him, throws an elbow, and then runs off. Like, he's stumbling out of bounds, and I think there's contact there.
Right.
I don't think it's deliberate. It is unfortunate that it happens to be Sergio Ramos, which furthers the narrative of him being a dirty player, at least in this game. Mm-hmm. But I think maybe you have Karius then a little bit dazed or a little bit out of it. You would expect, though, then if he's a professional, to stay on the ground and you get treatment and you get your head right, or you maybe can't get your head right and then you have a substitution again.
Interesting. Again, we can't speculate more on that because we genuinely don't know what happened between that Ramos-Karius incident and the next time we see him when he's sort of catching the ball and throwing it for Benzema.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. 1-0 Real Madrid.
Yep.
Liverpool equalise not long afterwards. It's just it's like 4 minutes or so, right? Before Sadio Mane has the ball in the back of the net. Yep. Sadio Mane, who, by the way, another incident involving Ramos, kind of lucky.
I'm glad you're saying this because I feel like at this point, Liverpool fans are not going to enjoy me for saying, like, no, that wasn't deliberate. No, that wasn't deliberate. Yeah, they should have done better.
So, look, I would hope that people trust us to be neutral.
Yeah.
Right? We watch this game with full neutrality. If anything, I kind of am more supportive of Liverpool because they had a load of England internationals, so I really wanted those guys to sort of have a glorious end to the season heading into the World Cup. We're just calling it as we see it, right? So if you can go back and delete whatever tweets you've sent so far, that would be great.
But it's the 53rd minute before Liverpool equalize. It's Sadio Mane. There's an incident with Sergio Ramos. Mane says, I didn't do anything. Ramos says, yes, you did. Most of the Madrid players agree. I agree as well. I think Sadio Mane absolutely slaps Sergio Ramos in the face.
I think he does too, because there's no reason his hand would be up there at that angle in Ramos's face.
No,
right?
And it definitely was not like, I'm trying to run and my hand happened to hit you as we're running. It's like backing up, looking at the ball, and then the hand comes across real fast. And I think, yes, Sergio Ramos definitely sells it, but it feels like
it's not hard enough to go down.
No,
right?
But it feels like one of those Diego Costa, like, I'm going to do it real fast. It can seem accidental, but maybe it gets you riled up. Maybe Sergio Ramos turns and shoves you or puts his hands to his face, and then that's a red card for Sergio Ramos.
Which is huge for Liverpool, right?
That.
If Ramos is off, that's huge for Liverpool.
So that's kind of the way I saw that one. Is like, Sadio Mane, I think you know what you're doing, and technically it is hands to the face. It is a strike, so it easily could have been a red card. It seems like the referee had a good view on it. Talked to Mane afterwards, no card given. Yep. But that was a moment of like, ooh, that could have been very different, and that could have been the game, basically.
And I assume Sadio Mane was like, all right, that's not working. How about I just score instead?
Well, there's that, yeah. And I do want to know, so it comes about from a Liverpool corner, I believe.
Definitely.
But the corner is earned by Liverpool going back to what worked for them in those first 20 minutes. It is a long ball over the top that is settled by Madrid, and I believe it's Casemiro once again who is pressured and dispossessed. It leads to that corner.
So what he does is Casemiro tries to sort of clear it with a half volley, but succeeds in kicking it straight up in the air. And I think as it comes back down, I believe it's Sadio Mane who backs into Casemiro and puts himself between Casemiro and the ball, receives it, then he's able to, like, I think he plays it out wide for Milner to cross it in, then it's a corner kick. But they have, I don't know if they like targeted Casemiro, like give him the ball and we'll get it off him, because you can't predict that Casemiro is going to kick it straight up in the air.
No.
Right? But essentially Casemiro is the weak link in terms of possession, and I think here's more evidence of that.
I think, yes. I think that if you want to boil it down to like the basics, I think the idea is we can pass it around and try to play our way through, and maybe that will work. But I think the expectation was Madrid are going to be a little bit more compact, at least in the beginning, so as to prevent that counterattack. But if we hoof it long, it is always going to be a 50-50 challenge thereabouts, and then you've got the second ball coming off of that you can win or put the person under pressure. So it might not necessarily be Casemiro, but I think it is definitely an eye towards now it's in their defensive third or their 18. They've got to deal with it, which always puts you under more pressure. You're probably not going to deal with it as cleanly as you would like, and that leads to opportunities to win the ball back, get a shot off, force a corner. And again, it's Rafael Varane who kind of saves Real Madrid here, albeit briefly, because then Liverpool score.
That's true.
But that ball from Milner, there are two different Liverpool players waiting right there to head that one in.
I think it's Wijnaldum and it's Firmino.
Who?
I want to say.
Who's the first one?
St. George Wijnaldum.
There we go. Okay, thank you. Yes, but they're both there, and it's that little flick from Varane that puts it past both of them. Again, a very good defensive play from him. Although then it ends up leading to a Liverpool corner and a Liverpool goal.
I genuinely, because there's so much focus on Real Madrid's goals, because all three of them have like craziness and wonder to them. I can't remember what happens with this Liverpool goal. I know Mane finishes it, but isn't there someone else hits it first?
Lovren. Dejan Lovren, like basically, I believe wins it, and then there's the kind of like confusion in the box that leads to Sadio Mane getting on the end of it, looking like he was offside, but when that header is initially won, he's very much onside.
Yeah, he's 100% onside. And I forgot, the other thing about this goal is Mane is initially disappointed because I think James Milner, taking the corner kick, changes it up just before the run-up, right? I think he might be going near post, which is what Sadio Mane is all ready for, right? Because he's thinking, oh, that's me. It's going to get me at the near post.
That's me.
I'm going to score. And I think he alters his run-up, Milner does, and indicates that they're going to go back post. But it turns out it works out, right? Because then it's Lovren can nod it back across for Sadio Mane.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's 1-1. It seems like maybe things are back, like parity is restored. It's going to calm down. And then comes Gareth Bale. Gareth Bale on in the 61st minute.
Yeah.
Amazing things in the 64th minute.
Yes. Let's talk about the substitution and the change in shape.
Sure.
This is the moment, I believe, where Zinedine Zidane does his now traditional, very simple but very effective tactical move, right? This isn't a complicated tactical move, but he goes from what you'd call the 4-3-1-2, where you've got Ronaldo, Benzema up front, Isco just underneath them, three central midfielders underneath that, so diamondish, right? To a straight-up 4-3-3. And we know this is the case that because when Bale comes on...
he makes it very clear.
For Isco, Bale sort of does air... He does air tactics.
Yep.
You know what I mean? He points where everybody is, and then you see Ronaldo go to the left, Bale on the right, Karim Benzema as the centre-forward, and then three central midfielders behind all that. I think this was a pre-planned Zidane thing because... Famously, Liverpool, you've got to weather the first 30 minutes, the first half or so. That's when they're best at gegenpressing because energy levels are highest. Once you get to the last 30 minutes, legs are a little bit tireder. That's when you can probably stretch them out. And so that's what I think this 4-3-3 was all about.
I agree, and I would add two things, because the other one would be with no Mohamed Salah, you lose a massive counterattacking piece if you're Liverpool. And I think for Madrid... That substitution, I agree. I think that was always going to happen, and I think there was always going to be that shift. But if you're Zidane, maybe it happened in the 70th minute instead of the 61st, 60th.
Yeah, so you moved it up 9 minutes.
Because you're like, ooh, they don't have that counterattacking option. It doesn't seem like they're as maybe lethal as they would be otherwise. And on top of that, I think it's worth noting, again, Gareth Bale makes it very clear. Like, you might have other coaches like send that on a little note that would be passed around and nobody could see, and then everybody would suddenly be in a 4-3-3. I agree with you that I think it's Zidane not really overthinking it, but just thinking, look, we're going to take the game to them. We're going to play a 4-3-3. Maybe that's going to force them to adjust what they're doing because now, oh, wait, they can recognize that we've changed. Maybe they changed themselves. But it just seems like the type of tactical change that is so simple, it seems almost too simple, but I think in the end it's really effective because you're not overly complicating it. Now Marcelo has to, actually we need to stay back, but sometimes drift inside and then this person will cut. Like, you don't need all that in a game, or in-game rather. You need the, do this, play it simple, do what we've done in the past, win another Champions League title.
So you end up with, and to give him his credit, it's Casemiro is the guy that chips the ball out left to the advanced Marcelo.
Shocking that he was in the attack.
Right, but reminder that he really can pass a ball.
Oh,
right?
I'm talking about Marcelo. Shocking that Marcelo was in the attack.
Here's the interesting part. Do you remember all the talk? I think the lazier, the half-effort previews were there's going to be space in behind Marcelo. And I think what we said in our preview was, but if that happens, that means Marcelo's forward and you should be scared. There was a lot of space in behind Marcelo when he had the ball on the left wing for this goal. And what he does, he rolls it back onto his right foot, which is a bit of a surprise, and then crosses it in towards, I'm going to say, a cluster of attackers, because there's basically Bale, Ronaldo, Benzema, almost on top of each other, round about the Liverpool penalty spot, right? Not a great cross.
Not a good cross at all.
Not a good cross. Nope. It is behind all three of them. Gareth Bale, let's just say he adjusts.
Yes. I mean, I think... that is what makes this goal so special for me. Obviously, any sort of overhead kick in this moment, in this setting, is obviously going to be super special. But it's the fact that the cross from Marcelo, it is not some moonball lobbed in the air that Gareth Bale has time to get underneath and realize, like, oh, I should hit this with a bicycle. It is not driven, but it is certainly low, and it is behind him, and it is one of those that's like, maybe 8 yards off the ground, but then dropping down pretty quickly. Not even 8 yards off the ground, but it's like it's dropping very quickly. And I think Gareth Bale, to react the way he does I was going to say 8 feet is what I should have said, not 8 yards. I got distracted by goals. Goals 8 yards by 8 feet. You know what I'm saying. Anyway, so I think in that moment it's especially impressive that Gareth Bale is able to adjust his body, get his dynamics and physics exactly right to hit that ball pretty much perfectly. There was no shin pad in there, is all I'm saying.
It was all boot.
I was waiting for you to be like, it's not technically a bicycle.
It's not, right?
I don't think
it's still
so.
very
It's an overhead
acrobatic
kick, yeah.
and beautiful. And I'm going to double down on one of the things I love about this goal is the celebration.
Oh, yeah.
He's been on the field 4 minutes. He's got his perfectly white, was it Los Merengues?
Yeah.
Real Madrid uniform.
He dirties it up pretty fast.
It's more green than white. It's very eco.
Yep.
Gareth Bale does a full Klinsmann slide on his front, gets just gigantic grass stains head to toe on that Real Madrid uniform.
Yes. And you have to believe that he was not pleased to not be starting. There's a lot of negatives in there. I apologize. This really must be the best possible way this could have gone for Gareth Bale, because he gets a brace after not starting. His, I think, quote afterwards was like, I need to be playing regularly. And really, if ever there were like maximum leverage, he's got it. To get a brace in the Champions League final as coming off the bench, either he is going to force his way into that team, or he'll force his way onto another team this summer with a significant number of zeros next to the number that eventually is agreed upon.
Before we discuss his second goal, would you, if you're Gareth Bale, do you see this as, okay, this is my ticket back into the starting 11? Or do you see this as, let's leave on a high. Let's leave after winning 3 Champions Leagues in a row, scoring 2 magnificent wonder goals in the most recent game. I've got all summer to figure out the best possible move. Like, now's the time to leave. Like, what else could he achieve at Real Madrid?
I feel like you've asked the question to answer it, but I agree with that.
You do?
I mean, yeah, I think it is that, because...
Well, I'll give you the alternative take in a second. Then.
Sure. I mean, I think, well, the alternative take would just be that he's maybe forced himself into a position where he can replace somebody else who's there. Not sure who that could be, question mark. And maybe then he becomes the kind of, the central player for the team. I think, especially given the way things seem to have already gone in some of the post-match comments, it feels as though he would do better or be better served looking for a move to a club where he is going to get consistent minutes. Still a very high-profile club, not necessarily Manchester United, but that would be fine with me. But I think that benefits him more right now.
To leave, okay. I think I'm with you on that.
And I say that because what I'm alluding to is Cristiano Ronaldo, in the immediate post-match interview, made a few comments that I don't necessarily want to spend too long dissecting, but I do believe that they're aimed at... Like, he could have said, it's great, it's wonderful that we've won, I love being here, now I'm going to go celebrate with my teammates. And his exact quote, maybe you have it in front of you, but it was essentially like, I have enjoyed my time here. Like, I'll let you know my plans.
I may still have it on my phone. I do not. But it's basically, he referred to enjoying his time at Real Madrid.
I have enjoyed it.
I have enjoyed my time at Real Madrid. And then I'll let the fans know what my future holds tomorrow. Something like that. Sorry, I wish I had the direct quote. And I wonder, full disclosure, we watched this game on Fox. I was hungry afterwards. Immediately after whistle, I went across the street to a Mexican restaurant where they were watching ESPN Deportes. And Ronaldo was interviewed on camera on ESPN Deportes, obviously en Espanol. I wouldn't be surprised if this quote is in Spanish and it's been translated into English, and that's given it a little sort of Bill Murray lost in translation moment.
It's possible. You know I believe the question was also, like, should the project continue? Like, the project at Real Madrid, should it continue, or should
they still have a football team?
I think it was more like, should this team continue, or do you think changes will be made? Either way,
should the Champions League continue?
Yeah, exactly. But just even like, I don't think maybe we shouldn't put too much stock in this, but I didn't see Ronaldo celebrating Bale's second goal very much. I saw him getting frustrated the time that Bale kind of had a breakaway and chose to try to shoot.
He went for a hat-trick, right?
It was a really good tackle from Lovren, I believe. But you could see Ronaldo very annoyed not to have gotten the ball. He looked very annoyed when the fan came on at the very end of the game in extra time when Ronaldo seemed like maybe he was going to get his chance to score.
Going to say, that fan better at applying pressure than Adam Lallana.
Yes, he was. At first, I thought it was a Madrid fan because he came from the Madrid end, but I'm now thinking it was probably a Liverpool fan, just trying to do something, maybe just hoping Karius wouldn't have to face another shot.
But you guys can't stop him, I'll do it.
But just that makes that whole, those like little sequences when added up together, it goes back to, it makes me feel like Bale is going to get a lot of pressure from Ronaldo, or it's going to be very much Ronaldo's, this is my team, I'm staying here, I'm maybe going to look for another contract, or I want certain guarantees to keep me happy here. It just feels like he is kind of positioning himself to still be in the spotlight in a game when Gareth Bale came off the bench to score a brace.
So the quote is about maybe taking the spotlight back a little bit and changing the conversation.
Yeah, I like that I said I don't want to get too much into this, and then I went on a 5-minute rant.
So we're essentially predicting either Bale will still be there next year or Ronaldo will still be there next year.
Or both. It really could be both. I think if
someone's going to broker a peace deal.
Well, I think if they're both still there, it's just the same situation. It's just Gareth Bale. Maybe he starts a few more games, but I mean, this was a tactical change from Zinedine Zidane for a specific purpose. I think it doesn't necessarily Gareth Bale playing well in a final few games of the season when they're trying to rest starters for the Champions League final and then coming off the bench as a super sub doesn't necessarily mean, he deserves to start next season. If anything, it might, in Zidane's mind, mean, he's definitely my super sub from now on. He's the one I'm going to bring off the bench with 30 minutes remaining.
He's Solskjaered himself.
There you go.
So what about Bale's final goal, which we have not talked about?
We have not.
So he hits it from, I don't know the distance, but it's 30 yards?
I'd say about that, 30, 35, yeah.
Like to the right of centre, or centre of right. Hits it swerving at Karius. You were the first to notice in studio that Karius essentially tries to catch this, and that's why he doesn't get a clean touch on it, and it just essentially bounces off his hands and goes in the back of the net, and then Karius just hits the deck, covers his face with his arms, and just has some alone time.
Yep, and
as if he's hoping the earth will swallow him, but he can't do it.
And writes every British journalist's hot take on the game for the rest of the summer. And every transfer rumor for the rest of the summer will be Liverpool linked with every single goalkeeper.
That's interesting.
That's definitely going to happen because it is exactly that. The ball swerves. You can tell that he's looking to catch it because I think he thinks the first swerve is done. He'll be able to catch it cleanly. And instead, you can very obviously see him suddenly have to realize, oh, no, it's moving again. And I think he just maybe can't get his hands set for it, doesn't get the knuckles out to make it be a punch, and so in the end it just kind of hits off the hands, goes in the goal.
And is it knuckleball? Is that what we call it when it sort of swerves twice?
Yeah.
Because normally Karius is correct and a ball just has one consistent arc, right? And once you read the arc, then you can read where the ball's going to be. But this thing, especially when you see the replay from behind Karius, you see it move one way, then the other way, then the other way. It's like a zigzag ball.
Yeah.
I think I called it like a fish. It looks like a fish.
It does. I mean, it's got a lot of movement, but it doesn't have that much movement. And I would say that this, if you
it's not Roberto Carlos.
No. But if you listener, if you play pool or you play golf or anything where like you have a simple shot.
Anything that's not really a sport.
I would very much disagree with that. But it feels like if you're in your head and you're wondering, I mean, we've had that in games where like if I haven't been very good so far, if I've maybe missed a few passes, when I'm trying to complete a simple pass, if in my head I'm thinking, like, I better make this one, here's how I have to pass it, and you start overthinking the mechanics of it because you don't have that confidence up, you're going to mishit your putt or you're going to mishit your shot on the table because you're overthinking it, and that's what this feels like for me. It's that he's already lost that confidence. So in the past, it would have been like, oh, punch it clear, we're good. But in this, I imagine if you slowed it down in his head, it was punch it, catch it, oh, I hope I don't mess this up, I'll catch it, I should be able to catch it. Oh no, I gotta punch it. And like you can just hear that indecision. You can see it on his face as that shot is coming.
So I would say, like end of game, future thinking wrap up, that Liverpool don't necessarily need a new goalkeeper just because Karius made two very high profile mistakes.
Yep.
He actually made at least two really good full stretch saves, right? Really impressive full stretch saves, right? I know that's not the only thing to judge.
One of them was maybe going out of bounds, but yeah.
Okay, but I would argue that based on, we spent quite a long time at the top of this show making the case that the Salah injury and Lallana's inability to replicate the sort of pressing and gegenpressing was the real turning point here. I would argue Liverpool's priority should be to get a replacement for that front three. Not necessarily like, oh, we can upgrade on Firmino, we can upgrade on Sadio Mane. I think it's a thing of Klopp knows what he wants from that position. He needs to go and find someone who can do the same thing that front three does. And he can rotate 3 of the 4, keep everybody fresh. If you lose someone to injury or suspension, you've always got a first choice front 3.
Yep.
Maybe it is Dom Solanke next year, but the fact that he didn't trust him for the Champions League final suggests maybe not quite.
I think it suggests, as you said during the game off air, you made the point.
Oh, so I suggested that this.
I don't want to see that from you.
Okay, but it sold me on the idea that if Jurgen Klopp believes that Christian Pulisic is someone who can be part of that Liverpool front 3, which is a very sort of rare set of players, right? For example, Cristiano Ronaldo could not be part of that front 3, right?
No.
Klopp would have to change his whole thing if you got a Ronaldo or a Bale. But I think Christian Pulisic is the type of player that can be part of that, especially because he came up with Klopp.
Yeah.
So if Klopp goes after Pulisic, I now think it's a great move for him.
Agree.
Because he'd be directly slotting into a system that works, and it would be improving Liverpool in a way that means he'll play a lot. Won't always start, maybe, but he'll play a lot and be part of the project.
I think you're looking at him as frequent starter and then equally frequent 20 to 30 minutes a game.
Yes.
Thereabouts, and maybe if you have that injury, then he becomes an automatic starter. But I don't think that's the worst thing, because I think it's a change of scenery. It requires him to elevate his game to justify potentially starting over one of those players.
Yep.
Or if not, then he's got to raise his game to stay in consideration.
Yep.
So as much as it would pain me to see him playing for Liverpool, I think it's a move that definitely makes sense.
Oh, as a Man United fan?
Especially because it just gives you that little bit of depth that you maybe don't have right now.
Yep. And just from a Liverpool perspective, if it's not Pulisic, then if Klopp can find someone else who he believes is really a perfect fit for this front 3, then I think that's what they need, so that something is always available.
Yep.
Because Naby Keita's already coming into the midfield. You got Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain to come back. There's plenty of midfield strength.
And I would say this is not a thing that I would have thought at the beginning of the season, certainly, because Virgil van Dijk wasn't there. But I am surprised by how impressed I've been from the Virgil van Dijk, Dejan Lovren combination. Lovren looked very good today.
Yes.
Had a few big tackles, big saves. Andy Robertson had some big tackle on Cristiano Ronaldo as well. Yeah, so I thought that defense looked very solid, which is very interesting given that it was a player who wasn't there at the beginning of the season, a player who lots of people doubted, a player who came from Hull City who people had some question marks about, and an 18-year-old who has yet to get his senior England debut.
Yeah.
That's a
19, I want to say.
Okay, but it's a teenager.
Yeah.
And it's the fact that they started in the Champions League final, and I don't think one of them had a bad game. I really think they all played just fine.
They did get behind Trent Alexander-Arnold a couple of times, but didn't score from it. But apart from that, solid stuff.
So I think that is a happy takeaway for Liverpool fans, if there is one. I would say, concluding on Liverpool, there was a quote from a fan who I think hasn't missed a game since 1986 or something like that. I saw this on Reddit, but he was one of the people who wasn't able to get to Ukraine. I think his flight was canceled. And they interviewed him about how he felt, and he was basically like, I'm sad, but I'm also confident this won't be the last Champions League final that Klopp takes us to. And I think that's a good way to take it, is that there's no reason to believe that this team won't be back. It's not a sort of, this was our shot and now we've got to rebuild. It feels like they're going to be even stronger next season.
Yes.
For Real Madrid, I think the thing that I was most impressed by is, we were talking about this during the game, they still have that reputation for Galacticos and signing big players and being that team that you always have to worry is going to come steal your best player. When's the last time they signed one of those players? It's probably James Rodriguez is what we ended up with, who is no longer there.
Pre-Zidane.
Yeah, I think so. Because, they've certainly signed people, don't get me wrong, but you look at the players that were coming in, it was players that were already there before Zidane took over. And then it's, you had Asensio coming on, you had Isco playing a bigger role, you had Casemiro playing a bigger role, Nacho came on for Dani Carvajal. These are players who I think have developed under Zidane.
Diabetes shout out on Fox Sports.
There you go. Yeah. So I think it's incredibly impressive what Zidane has done, because controversially, I do not think that this is one of the best teams we've ever seen, from top to bottom in the past 3 years. They're very good at doing what they've done. It's an amazing accomplishment, but I still think Zidane makes them greater than the sum of their parts, if that makes sense.
I think that's right. And I think the simple thing, like we talked about with the switch to the 4-3-3 towards the end, I think they are deserving European champions of the last 3 years. I think they are the best team around.
They're certainly deserving,
But he's a key part of it, which is really interesting, because it's not what you would have guessed 3 or 4 years ago.
No, it's not. But I know this is potentially controversial because obviously they weren't there. But if you were a manager, would you rather play Real Madrid or would you rather play Man City? And I think
I'd say right now Real Madrid because they just played a game.
See, there we go. Dale Grove finding loopholes. But I think that they're not like the most terrifying team that exists in the world right now, but they're the most terrifying team that knows how to win the Champions League.
This goes back to that Michael Cayley Athletic article that they're not a scary pressing team. It's like they're doing something else that other teams aren't doing, and they keep winning the Champions League doing it.
I think it's like they're like. No,
pressing's a gamble, right? In
many
many ways, pressing's like a gamble that can go wrong, and at some point, it has gone wrong for every team that does it so far. But if you're not a pressing team, you can you've got a bit more flexibility in what you can do.
Yeah, they're just like lethal. That's what it comes down to for me, is that there's just this moment in every Madrid game, I feel like, when they're just like, oh, right, we're Real Madrid. And then they score 2 goals. And it's just like, oh, right, that can happen.
Can I just finally shout out the guy that I was weirdly most impressed with in a way that I think I've underestimated him in the past?
I feel like I know the name you're going to say.
Raphael Varane?
I was going to say somebody else.
Okay. Who are you going to say?
Karim Benzema.
Karim Benzema. No, I appreciated Benzema's skill set. He was, despite not having any, I was going to say he didn't have any direct impact, he scored the first goal. Yeah. Never mind. So Benzema was very good at coming and showing the whole time and dragging people away.
He covered a lot of ground for Madrid.
It's like stuff he always does, right? But Raphael Varane, there's so many times, especially in the first half, where he is using sort of strength and pace and smart reading of the game and great sort of technical control to really save Real Madrid's bacon multiple times, right? Sergio Ramos always good. Sergio Ramos, like kind of cynical and has done some things to make this result happen. But Rafa Varane, I really think, put on a performance. I don't think people talk about him for France going into the World Cup. I think he might be one of the stars of the World Cup defensively.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised.
I'll save that for
happens.
my World Cup preview.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's on the team of the tournament alongside Sergio Ramos.
Oh, how about that?
Prediction as well.
Reunited on the team of the tournament.
And so my final thing I want to say about this game is basically just that if you look at these two teams, Madrid are going to, I think, only get stronger. Maybe they lose Gareth Bale. I doubt they lose Cristiano Ronaldo, but I think that they retool. They bring in a couple more names if they need to, or a couple more squad players if they need to. I don't see them getting that much weaker. I don't see Liverpool getting that much weaker either. I wouldn't be surprised if the Champions League final next year is one of these two teams.
This holds
both of these two teams.
This holds no water, but it seems to me that because they've won 3 in a row, it sort of has to officially be the end of the era because it's 3 in a row. Sort of like how there's a movie trilogy, right? After the 3rd movie, you're sort of like, oh, yeah.
I mean, Juve have won 7 in a row. I don't I think there's a chance that it could continue on. I don't know. Nothing is impossible with Madrid because they could be losing until the 92nd minute and then score from 80 yards out. I don't know.
I just feel like after this, it's going to be more like the Hobbit movies than the Lord of the Rings trilogy. You know what I'm saying? We shall see. I
don't think they could ever be that bad.
If you want to read some great coverage about the Champions League final and many, many more things, today's show is not sponsored by The Athletic, but we want to shout them out anyway. Lots of good coverage over at theathletic.com. You can get 40% off a subscription if you go to theathletic.com/TSS. We're part of the sort of behind the scenes stuff going on there. We know they're working on some good stuff right now.
They sure are. But we also know the members of our scouting network are working on some good stuff right now because we're still getting many scouting reports. We still have a bit of a backlog, but we're going to read out a few right now, starting with Alex Forbes scouting Reggie Cannon, the 19-year-old American right back for FC Dallas. Reggie Cannon logged his first MLS goal last weekend in a 2-2 draw with Vancouver. Reggie cut inside from the right and whipped the left-footed curler to the far post to beat the goalkeeper.
I've got 3 words for you. American, Arjen Robben.
Interesting. A right back? Was that where Arjen Robben started, as a right back?
No, but he's on the right side and he cuts in and shoots with his left.
All right. You just love like hashtagging these players so that then they're easily quotable.
Hashtag AAR.
He displayed his maturity in the post-match interview when he said that scoring a goal didn't matter if they didn't get all 3 points.
Fair.
That's a veteran response.
Patrick Keeler is scouting Anthony...
Arjen Robben would never say that.
Patrick Keeler is scouting Anthony Robinson, the 20-year-old American left-back for Everton. Patrick says it was a good week for Anthony Robinson as he picked up the Outstanding Young Player of the Year award from the Bolton Press and got another call-up into US men's national team camp.
He sure
While
did.
we're on this, should we very quickly talk US-Bolivia?
Sure.
So the game is on Monday in Chester, Pennsylvania, which is very near to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Luckily, we're gonna be there for the game.
That's why the moment you hesitated, I was like, we're going to be there, Dale. You should know where it is.
The stadium's in Chester. We're going to be there for USA versus Bolivia on Monday. It's part of like an athletic.com meetup. We don't know if we'll be able... We definitely won't be able to do a quick take, hot take, right? Because we'll be at the stadium. We won't have our recording stuff. We expect we'll have a review show, USA Bolivia review show out, I'm going to say Tuesday. But if you don't see it Tuesday, it's because we're travelling back and it's been impossible.
It's Daryl's fault
to record. It's Taylor's fault if we don't get a shout out.
Daryl at TotalSoccerShow.com.
But next week, expect USA Bolivia review and at least a World Cup Group C preview.
Indeed. At least those two things. Up next, Alex Rendon scouting Eduard Atuesta, the 20-year-old Colombian midfielder for LAFC. Atuesta played 26 minutes as a sub in LAFC's 2-1 loss against Portland on Saturday. He made good use of them, assisting on LAFC's only goal, a lovely curler from Carlos Vela to the top corner. Well done, Eduard Atuesta.
On all LAFC goals, Carlos Vela curlers to the top corner. He just seems to keep doing it.
Pretty much.
Jonathan Holmgren is scouting Foster Langsdorff, the 22-year-old American forward for Portland Timbers 2. Jonathan says that Langsdorff scored his first professional hat-trick in T2's 7-3 demolition of Los Dos this past weekend. Langsdorff's first two goals capitalised off of LAG2's defensive miscues, and his third from the penalty spot featured textbook PK confidence Daryl Grove would be proud of. If I ever score a penalty kick, I'll be very proud. Langsdorff's hat-trick is the first in T2 history.
Along similar lines, Colin Bish is scouting Eric Williamson, the 20-year-old American midfielder for the Portland Timbers. Williamson scored his second professional goal in that 7-3 beatdown of Los Dos. The goal came off a save, and Williamson was in the right place to calmly finish. T2 looked very dangerous in attack and very weak in defense, making these games a lot of fun to watch, says Colin.
Mason Kritz is scouting Marco Farfan, the 19-year-old American defender for the Portland Timbers. Guess what we're going to get a report on?
They're well represented.
Farfan got some minutes for T2 in their friendly with FC St. Pauli.
Yay!
I failed to read ahead.
The tradition of Daryl not reading ahead continues.
I got it wrong. He hasn't played for the senior team in the last 5 matches, though. He has been dealing with some injuries, which might partially explain his absence.
Or they've just been saving him for that St. Pauli game. They had to make sure they win against the German second division team. You already did Mason Chris. Excuse me. Stephen Kopech scouting Kenny Saif, the 24-year-old midfielder for Anderlecht.
American.
Just Anderlecht. Saif's quality of play with Anderlecht has been rewarded as they announced that his loan from Ghent will be made permanent for the 2018-2019 season. Well done, American midfielder Kenny Saif.
What happened to us calling him Kenny Sef? Was that just a mistake on one... not us as a show, but us as a nation?
I can't remember because I think that was what was being done by the commentators, but then maybe he said it's not Sef. Yeah. I can't remember. So, I'm going to say Saif until I definitely hear otherwise.
Kenny Saif.
Until we meet him in person. We fly to Belgium and we interview him face-to-face and ask him how to say his name.
Shreyas Romani is scouting Dan Axel Zagadou, 18-year-old centre-back for Borussia Dortmund. Shreyas says Zagadou started in Dortmund's friendly against LAFC. I forgot about this happened, which was his first appearance since March. He cut out a lot of long balls and did a good job marking Latif Blessing. Zagadou never really played under Peter Stöger, and it's unknown what Lucien Favre has in store for him next season. Socrates is potentially on his way to Arsenal, so Dan Axel, Manuel Akanji and Omer Toprak may be competing for the centre-back spots at Dortmund next season. Socrates on his way to Arsenal.
I've seen that. I've seen Man United. I think he's going to be linked with a lot of Premier League clubs. We'll see what happens.
It also just occurred to me, who was coaching Dortmund in this post-season friendly?
That's a very good question.
Did Stöger get a free trip to America?
The assistant? Maybe?
Yeah.
Christian Pulisic. Christian Pulisic was in charge. Why not?
I heard he was not good.
Oh.
In this game. Just saying. He might have been.
Well, he was busy coaching, that's why. Ian Shank scouting Fernando Arce Jr., the 21-year-old American midfielder for Tijuana. Arce spent the entire Clausura learning his new position as a defender. He played 9 games with Cholos U20s and 3 more with the second team. So the big question for next season will be if he has progressed enough to be a first-team player in Tijuana's defense.
Okay, we'll find out. Ryan Marzak is scouting Josh Onoma, the 21-year-old English midfielder on loan at Villa from Tottenham. The English Modric was subbed in for the final 13 minutes of the Championship playoff final. Josh Onoma was brought on to help create some offence late when Fulham were down to 10 men. Unfortunately, it was not enough as Fulham held on for a 1-0 victory and earned promotion to the Premier League. We'll see where this leaves Onoma as he returns to Tottenham, but it is widely reported Villa want to sign the youngster permanently over the summer if Spurs are willing to sell. That'd be okay for Josh Onoma.
That would be okay, but more okay is that Tim Ream is back in the Premier League.
Yes,
in the Premier League? Has he ever been in the Premier League?
Yeah, back in the day.
Right.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. So Tim Ream is in the Premier League next season. I dodged that one.
Yeah.
As Ryan Sessegnon is in the Premier League for the first time with Fulham.
Yeah, but Tim Ream's more exciting than Ryan Sessegnon.
It depends.
More likely to score.
Depends which angle you're looking at it. If you've seen the goal on this, Sessegnon doesn't score it. Kenny scores it, but Sessegnon sets it up. He dribbles across the top of the box, puts a very clever reverse pass behind the Villa defence for Fulham to score. 17 years old.
Yep. But the American connection continues. It makes me very happy. It makes me very happy to have Fulham back in the Premier League.
Yeah.
I think because
a lot of Fulham fans in the US.
Yeah, I mean, you've got the American connection. There are many, many Americans who've played there. There are many more Americans who will play there since Marlon Fossey and Luca De La Torre are still on the books.
That's true.
Whether or not they play next season, I don't know.
Maybe Fulham spend some money now they're in the Premier League. They're a team that's likely to pick up American talent to, fatten up their roster.
Maybe they come in and hijack that Tyler Adams move. You never know, Daryl Grove. You never know.
I think he's better
That's
off.
That's not going to happen, yeah.
Better off at Leipzig. All right, thank you to Alex, Patrick, Alex, Jonathan, Colin, Mason, Stephen, Shreyas, Ian and Ryan for today's scouting reports.
I concur.
You concur. Thank you to everybody who has submitted scouting reports. Thank you to everybody who supports the Total Soccer Show. If you'd like to support us, it's totalsoccershow.com/join.
I concur with both of those things too.
If you'd like to hear our World Cup previews, totalsoccershow.com/World Cup. Help us spread the word. Let people know about our big World Cup previews. We guarantee, it seems, 100 minutes minimum for every World Cup group preview.
Minimum, certainly.
So congrats to Real Madrid. Good effort, Liverpool. And goodbye from us.
And thanks for being there, Karius. Is that how we end it?
I mostly feel bad for Karius. All right, so we're going to be off to watch the game on Monday. We will hopefully talk to you again on Tuesday, where we'll review USA versus Bolivia.